You ever just feel like you don't know how to emotionally regulate yourself or what that really means? And there's almost this sense of feeling disconnected from yourself or just feeling like you always need to rant your emotions to someone else. You always need to project your emotions. And ultimately, it just leads down to a path of feeling disconnected, overwhelmed, and not even sure what to do about it. So, this is something that I personally learned in my own experience because I sort of grew up where those, heavier emotions like anger or sadness were more of things that were not exactly regulated when I was a child. It was more of like, oh, like, yeah, it's so funny that you're angry, or if you're sad, "Oh, you're so weak. You need to be more strong." And it's like, I don't blame anybody for that because that's probably how my parents grew up and their parents before them. But that also meant that I didn't want to continue to live that way as I grew up. And so this is how I emotionally learned how to regulate my emotions, if you will. And it really helped me to alchemize any of those suppressed emotions that you have deep within you. Like, for example, a lot of people have suppressed anger, and that often shows up as irritation, frustration, road rage. And people might just think that's the way they are, but it's because you have that deep rooted anger in you that you're not actually dealing with. And that's why it continues to show up in your life. So, this is what I do. I want to call it like the three A's. And so it is acknowledge, allow, and accept. And there's another little key that comes into this whole process to actually alchemize your emotions, which I'm going to get into. So, I want to take you step by step of the process of what I do to emotionally regulate, and it, even if it's just in the moment where you notice that I think I have a lot of suppressed sadness or a lot of suppressed anger, you can also apply this method to sort of free that emotion, if you will. And so that way it's no longer manifesting in your physical experience and you're not attracting that into your life either. So, what I like to do is that when I want to go through this process, I like to get into a quiet space. Doesn't necessarily have to be super quiet. It just, you need to have space, right? And so getting relaxed as much as you can. You can do this sitting like I am, maybe laying in your bed. You just want to be relaxed and nobody like coming up to you, okay? Because this is an inward journey. It doesn't take long. Just depends on what you're alchemizing, what the emotion really is. And so you want to get relaxed first, as much as you can, even if you are in the midst of that emotion, just getting in a relaxed position. And personally, I tell myself this in my head because it allows the process to unfold easier for me. So I'll just tell myself, I acknowledge that I feel this way, and try your best to put a label to it. If you don't know what the emotion actually is, just acknowledge, I feel this way. Maybe noticing where you feel any tension, tightness, just noticing those areas in your body and just acknowledging that they are there. Okay, this is the first step. So many people just want to avoid how they feel. If they acknowledge it, it starts to get scary. Maybe they don't really know what they're going through. So this is the first thing, is getting relaxed and just telling yourself, I acknowledge that I feel this way. The second thing that you're going to do is allow, and just tell yourself, I allow myself to feel this emotion. Third thing is I accept that I feel this way. And this is the whole process. Now, let me add another layer onto these three A's. So, the key thing here is that when you allow yourself to fully feel the emotion, and this is why it's so important to get as relaxed as you can in a position, is because I don't mean that you become the emotion. You don't become the emotion when you allow it. You observe the emotion. And what is the difference there? So, when I've done this in the past, and I was like, okay, I allow myself to feel this anger. My fists would get really tight, my face would get really tight, my jaw would be like so clenched together, and the stories would start to come to my mind. Oh, this person did this. Oh my god. And that loop was happening where it's like thought, emotion, and it was just amplifying the more that I allowed it to happen. And so this process is not really helpful when you do that because you're not really freeing the emotion, you're becoming the emotion. And so the key difference here is that when you observe the emotion, meaning you don't become it, you just observe it. And the way that looks like is you stay relaxed in your body and you just feel the energy moving through your body, noticing the temperature of your body, noticing where your body wants to tense up and continuing to relax that area. And you are just in your body noticing how the energy is moving, but you're not becoming the emotion. You're observing it as if you're like, in your higher awareness. You're in your awareness and you're not the emotion. And so when you are in this place, now this is especially key for those suppressed or deeper rooted emotions, is that when you are in this process, I am allowing and feeling it in your body, but you're not becoming it. You can ask the emotion, what are you trying to tell me? What is the message? What am I um what are you trying to teach me? Really anything kind of along those lines. Just allow it to be intuitive, really. And you'll actually be surprised that you might actually get this like central lesson, or maybe this memory comes up from when you're a child, or maybe some sort of visual, but it's not something that you're going to be figuring it out up here. Okay, it's not about, okay, why do I have this deep rooted anger, and you're thinking about all the things that happened in your childhood. No, you're just asking the emotion, and you're actually able to communicate with this emotion because you're not the emotion. Once you become the emotion, it's really hard to communicate with the emotion because you are one with the anger, you're one with the sadness. Instead, as long as you see yourself as the awareness, as the witness, you're able to actually communicate and sort of understand, why am I holding on to this emotion? What is it really about? Do you have that deep-rooted anger because you are afraid to set boundaries? Because you are afraid of conflict? Because you are afraid to speak up for yourself? Do you have that deep-rooted unacceptance of yourself because of the way that your mom perceived you or your dad perceived you? The thing is that this is what I love about this method, if you call it that, I guess, is that you can actually alchemize your emotions and understand these deeper lessons, which is so cool because you don't have to journal and do all this therapy. Well, I mean, I guess you can go to therapy. I'm not hating on that. But you don't have to do all this extra stuff of like the shadow work and stuff. I mean, this is kind of like shadow work, but it's not the journaling. It's just the feeling. And to be able to have this experience, like I said, you have to be the observer. You have to practice being the observer. And so after you have that process with yourself, then you just tell yourself, I accept that I feel this way. And so many people have such a problem with dealing with their emotions and regulating their emotions because they don't want to accept how they actually feel about things. So many people are running away from how they really feel, running away from how their life really feels because they don't want to feel it. They don't want to accept that they actually feel that way. And so the quicker that you can just accept, and I mean like actually accept, I usually just tell myself, and if there's any resistance, I acknowledge what that resistance is to holding on to that emotion. And then I just accept the way that I feel. And usually the emotion it will be gone. Like you won't even like feel it anymore, honestly, in your body. So this is something that I do all the time when I feel a lot of emotions, if I'm having some sort of road rage, or if I'm feeling super irritated by small things, um, it's definitely just those little like breadcrumbs that are trying to tell you, like, go within, go inside and see what it is that this emotion is actually trying to teach you, because it's continuing to show up until you get that lesson right. Until you get that lesson, it's going to continue to show up in your life over and over, or until you acknowledge it, until you allow it to actually be felt, and so the emotion can run its full course in your body, its full like life course in your body and stuff like that. And so you no longer hold on to it. So many people are unconsciously holding on to these emotions, and then they wonder why, maybe they had bad luck. Everybody cuts me off in traffic. This and that, because you are attracting that. You are attracting that because you are holding on to those deeper emotions within yourself, and that's ultimately giving out the information in your aura, which is ultimately attracting those aligned frequencies into your life. But you think that's true. You just think that's the way life is. That's the way my life is, right? But it's not. It's because you're holding on to those emotions. That's what's being reflected back to you in your reality. And so that's why you think it's truth. That's why you think that's just the way things are, but it's not. It's that you're holding on to these emotions. And so many people are so afraid to look at their emotions. But if you just follow this step by step process of getting relaxed, take like in a relaxed position, acknowledging the way you feel, allowing yourself to feel the emotion as the observer, not becoming the emotion, and asking the emotion, what are you teaching me? What are you trying to show me? And then accepting that a lesson, accepting the way that you feel. And try it out. Just try it out and let me know how this goes. Send this video to someone that is, maybe having a hard time regulating their emotions, or feels super disconnected with themselves. And that's why I personally love, teaching yoga and movement and other mindset things, because it all kind of ties together, right? So many people feel disconnected with themselves. And it's not that, you know, anyone's fault. A lot of people just don't know how to do it. They just don't know how to connect with themselves. They just think it's super complex, but it's really simple. You just have to start practicing. You have to start practicing being the observer with your awareness. And that's where meditation really comes into play. So comment below any questions, any of your own personal experiences as well, if you feel open to share. And I will see you in another video. I really hope this video helps anyone struggling with understanding their emotions and how to actually regulate their emotions too without becoming the emotion. So, thank you so much for watching this video, and peace.